Macho Man! Welcome back, everybody. Breakfast with Bob, day 2 from Kona at Huggo's on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas. SFuels, right fuel, right time. HOKA, a fly, human fly. Deboer, Wetsuits, Quintana, and of course our Challenge Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, the 2023 Ironman World Champion. Give it up for Sam Laidlow. So good to see you, my friend. Everything good?
Yeah, really good, mate. It's great to be here. And I just realised then that last time I saw Poncho Man was at the after party here. He's pretty good at. He's not just good at ukulele. Let's just say that
he can party.
He can party. Yeah.
He can totally party. I remember you at that after party. You were having some fun while you were, you got second, right?
Yeah, well, second, but it felt like a win. It was a big step forward for me, and that was a breakthrough performance. And it's crazy to think that. Last time I was here, like the position I was in, it was just kind of me and my dad and very few sponsors, and kind of I was here and there was nobody, no crowds, and but yeah, and now I'm just super grateful for the position I'm in. I have amazing support, an amazing team behind me, and great sponsors. So yeah, it's just great to be back.
Sometimes when things happen like that quickly, like little lightning in a bottle, and you get second and you're leading for most of the day, some people have a hard time with success. Because all of a sudden there's all these people who you don't know and everybody wants things from you. Did you have issues with that?
When I came second in Kona, that was fine because I still had somewhere to go. I still had one more step to go and get.
Yes.
So I was still going in exactly the same direction, and I still wanted that world title. It was definitely more complicated after Nice last year, because suddenly, for the first time ever, I was waking up kind of not really knowing what I was getting up in the morning for. Because I'd always in my head like. One world title was amazing, and that was the dream, and then so it kind of took me 2 or 3 months to kind of just ask myself the right questions and figure out where the next 10 years were going to take me. But yeah, I feel like that's quite natural, and I'm happy I've lived it. I mean, now for me, it's not just about the race wins, but it's more about really doing my thing and hopefully inspiring some kids to come into this sport and making the sport look as it's kind of cool, and I want kids to watch the sport thinking that this is awesome. I grew up in a family where we were already into triathlon, and so I naturally kind of watched Kona and stuff.
Yes.
But I want to grow the sport as much as we can, and I think that's more than just winning a title or winning races. And so as much as I can kind of bring my little bit to the sport, that's my goal. Yeah.
So winning in France. As a French athlete, that had to be even more special.
Yeah, it was special for so many reasons. I had a really tough year that year in terms of results. I had that season. I kind of had a few misfortunes. First of all, I had a liver infection, and I had a calf tear, and then I got COVID 3.5 weeks before the race. So I really went into it kind of like I was telling my training partner before that I'd be happy with a top 10, and so suddenly to be leading the race and then to kind of hold it off on the run was special, and I definitely kind of got uplifted by the French crowds there. I mean, when you come off the bike with a 6-minute lead, and there's the crowds there were insane, So yeah, it was an amazing day for me and my family, and but obviously the goal and my true dream has always been to win Kona. So luckily, again, I still kind of have that. I think it was good for me to win a world title, but still kind of not quite have sealed the deal with it not being Kona, because it still means again that I've got something to go and get. But it still kind of got me prepared to how I would deal next time with success,
So the ring you're wearing now, does that have the coordinates?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 2 years ago I told you about that ring, and I managed to, after Nice, buy my dad the same ring, but with the Nice coordinate finish lines. So I think my mum is due a present if I win here on Saturday. Yeah.
And being back on the island after having the success you had a couple years ago. And you think about the World Championships, right? You were 8th in St. George, 2nd in Kona, and then first in Nice. So obviously, when the lights are bright, you do really, really well. Is that throughout your career? Have you felt that's in the clutch moments, I'm going to come up big?
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. I think I have a very big kind of emotional attachment to Ironman World Championships, and so there's probably like this kind of overdrive that kind of just pushes everything to one side, and on a race day I can kind of like pull out something really amazing. And equally, like the whole year is, for me, the whole season is made to make mistakes that I then won't do. on race on
Right.
coming World Championships, you know. And so it's not about being the best in June, and I'm not an athlete who can commit. Like, I mean, I admire guys like Christian and Magnus who train like 30+ hour weeks all year round, you know, but I'm just not one of them guys. I need to also switch off and have a load to kind of build back up, and I feel that this year we've really done a good job of that, and it's been kind of a slow start to the season, and slowly kind of my races and my numbers have got better and better, so hopefully we're on track for a good day. Yeah.
So I look at last year, you know, Roth, you were right with Magnus, the two of you guys, and then you had calf issues. Nice, again, another little battle, you and Magnus. With Christian and those guys behind, do you see potentially you and Magnus working together a little bit on the bike? Or do you feel like, okay, I'm going to be out of the water before that guy, I don't want anything to do with him?
Yeah, to be honest, I think I'm probably one of the only athletes that like's not dependent of the of the race scenario, you know, and I think that is my strength, because so let's say Magnus, like an amazing cyclist and a great runner, he's slightly dependent on where he's going to come out on the swim, you know, and then Christian, for instance, he's slightly more dependent of what Magnus and me are going to do on the bike. And Patrick, same for Patrick, you know. For me, it's more about doing my numbers, doing my race, and I know that, like, in my head, I believe that if I can make this race a time trial, I'd have the best shot at winning, you know, if it was just swim on your own, bike on your own, and run on your own. So if I can turn that race into a time trial, that's amazing. But of course, I mean, I'm not against having a bit of help from Magnus on his day. He's an amazing rider, and also Robert Callan. He was really impressive on the bike in Vitoria this year. So I think he might surprise a few on the bike. Yeah.
Well, who else are we? Because this year, when I was looking through people's splits, there were so many people who are swimming sub 50, who are riding 403 to 405, and are running, you know, in the under 240. They're running 234, 235, 236. Guys that a lot of people have not heard of. But you obviously know who these guys are. Do you keep track of what other guys are doing, and if you're going to have to deal with them on race day?
Yeah, I think we just naturally know what's going on. You know, I don't deliberately kind of watch every single Ironman.
Right.
But yeah, I think definitely the speed. The main thing is that the speeds on the bike have got a lot faster, and it's not just a power thing. It's also an aerodynamic aspect. Yeah, I mean, in Ironman Vitoria this year, Robert rode a 353 or something, or 354, and if you went and drove around that course, like, you'd think, how the hell is that possible? You know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think myself I can ride considerably faster than I did 2 years ago. I mean, 2 years ago, I got a new bike like 6 days before, completely new size. I'd sellotaped the handlebars and like never done any aero testing, you know. So we had great conditions 2 years ago. So if we have the same conditions, I think definitely sub 4 hours is easily possible.
Yep.
But looking at the weather, it doesn't look like that. You know, we've had a few very windy days. So, but then on the flip side of that, I've never had a Kona where it's been really windy, and that would also suit me being a stronger rider. So
yes, yeah, and you've been here so long, and what people always find out, the wind's different every single day out there. There's like it's never predictable what it's going to be. Yeah. Have there been days that have surprised you how windy it was out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's been like training rides where I've come back and had like 45k plus average, you know, and I've been like, oh, this is going to be like, I'm gonna kill this race, you know.
Yeah.
And then what, 2 or 3 days ago, I averaged like 38, you know. So there's a big difference depending on the days, because you could get a headwind on the way out, and then it could turn and have a headwind on the way back. I was just looking at the weather then before, and it looks like we'd probably have a very slight tailwind on the way out, but then it picks up through the day, and so we'd have and then we'd have a headwind on the way back, but that would be much stronger. So it'd be on paper probably a slower day. But I mean, yeah, I could look at the weather forecast tomorrow and it might be completely different. So
when you get second here and then you win last year, was there, in terms of the media, in terms of what came out of it, did you feel that winning Nice was huge compared to getting second in Kona? But both Ironman World Championships, but there's something about Kona that resonates a little bit.
Yeah, I would argue that the second place in Kona was probably a bigger deal than my win in Nice. Of course, like I'd rather have the Nice title than second place, but I also, it was kind of different because I went from effectively being a nobody to suddenly coming second in Kona, and in Kona, obviously the time zone is closer to US, and a lot of the people watching the race are from the US, so it was huge for me, and that transition was massive, because that was when suddenly I signed with Canyon and HOKA and all my sponsors, and like actually after Nice, nothing really changed, in terms of I still had the same support from the same partners mostly. So yeah, I would say that the biggest difference was the second place in Kona.
When you look at some of the guys here, sort of a changing of the guard year, and we've got Jan's retired, Sebi's retired, Patrick's 38, Lionel mid-30s. So there's all these young guys coming up. When you look at the sport, is the sport, and on the other side of it is too, we've got PTO, and this year you did second at, and I wouldn't consider these your type of events, but second in Ibiza, winning London, ninth in Miami. Those are great indicators that your speed is there, that the power is there. What do you take away from those type of races?
Yeah, for me, these races are really about working on my weaknesses, as kind of you just said. The sport is really being pushed there, because there's a mix of the short course athletes and the long course athletes, and it's great to gain experience from them races. And I was kind of surprised that I managed to win one this year. And then the last one in Ibiza, I mean, I really put a big emphasis on my run before that one, and I had a very solid run there, running with Martin van Riel, who's probably one of the best kind of runners in the sport right now. That was awesome. And again, like since then it's been about focusing a bit more on my bike and bringing my bike level back to where it needs to be for the big day.
The fact that you're such a dominant swimmer, do you still have to work on that?
Yes and no. It's difficult. Like for me, swimming, like I kind of wish the swim was much longer, in this race.
Like 4 miles would be good.
Because, it doesn't have that much of an impact. And London was a great example of that, actually, because I decided to not race with a wetsuit there, and I came out like second last from the.
No way.
Yeah, I came out second last of the water, because I was a bit too kind of confident about my swim, and then managed to somehow win the race. So, but no, here, I mean, that's why I like to do the Oala swim, because it always reminds you of actually how hard it is, because we quickly forget about the swim. Because it's like, it's only 45 minutes long or whatever, and but actually when you're in it, it does actually tire you out more than you think, and it always seems longer. Like you always go into an Ironman thinking, like the bike and the run is so long, like often we neglect the swim, and then when you're like after 500 meters of the swim, you're like, where is this turnaround, and it's so I do work on my swim, but most of the time, most of my swims are there actually more to keep a feel for the water and to recover from other sessions, which I'm very lucky to be able to do that.
So last year at Challenge Roth, when you had the calf issue, were you concerned that, because we're talking July or June, and you got to get ready for Ironman World Championships coming up, and in the fall, were you concerned that it was going to recover in time, because calves could take a while? I mean, the immediate response was like, okay, right, the first goal is to actually get to Nice, healthy, and there was a question on how much I would have run like in the lead up, but it held up really quickly, to be honest. I guess it's just a weird sport where you really don't know what's going to happen. You can show up and think you've had the best prep and have a terrible day, and equally show up kind of having barely run. And there's a lot of examples of that in Kona. Whether it's Tim O'Donnell or something, when he had his best ever performance, he'd barely run. 2019, yeah. And there's loads of cases, and it's just you never know what we're in for, I guess. So a couple years ago, when you've got Gustav and Christian, and you're seeing them in the out and backs, where they're at, they're coming. And then last year, Patrick Lange, one of the best pure runners in the sport, and he's coming. Were you having flashbacks last year? Oh my God, I don't want this guy to be catching me. To be honest, in Nice, what was great, well, both Kona and Nice, I wasn't really thinking about what the others were doing. It was more about like when you come off the bike with such a lead, you're in such an amazing position that all you can do is just like focus on your own marathon and making sure you get the nutrition right and the hydration right. And that was obviously amazing. But the only difference, I would say, that when I was in Kona 2 years ago, I was like, I was running in first, and in my head, even if 5 guys came past me, I still would have been really happy with that race. Yes.
Obviously in Nice, it was completely different. If one guy came past me, I would have been quite annoyed. It's and that's what's difficult, is to come into a world championship and kind of kind of you're having to deliberately remind yourself that, okay, well, you can't, like, you probably won't come into every world championship with a 6-minute lead off the bike, you know, and that's happened to me twice now. And so yeah, I need to obviously it's difficult when you've won a world title to kind of be happy with coming second or third. And so I think you probably race differently simply because you're going for the win, and there's probably 4 guys on the weekend that will do everything to try and win, because they won't kind of settle for second place. Right. And that's quite a risky kind of way of racing, because obviously it kind of you're going for the win, but equally you could completely blow up and come 6th or 7th or even 15th, you know. So
what impressed me the most last year was you were coming off. That's a brutal bike ride at Nice, and I know you'd spend some time on it, but you ran 3 minutes faster at Nice than you ran in Kona the year before. So obviously that was you paced it perfectly, not taking too much on the bike, so you still had something left for the run.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that the run course in Nice is probably slightly easier than Kona, whether it's the conditions or the hills. So yeah, I think my run performance was probably similar to Kona last year, 2 years ago, sorry. But equally, I had them issues coming into the race, you know. So I kind of knew that I just wasn't in the shape that I wanted to be. Especially running now, I feel that I've definitely made a small step forward. You know, I'm not saying I'm running like Christian or running like Patrick, but I don't necessarily need to. You know, I mean, luckily, I don't need to change much. You know, we're going in the right direction. You know, I came 8th and 2nd and 1st, and last year I won with a 4-minute lead, and so I'm in a privileged position to not have to change much, just to keep believing in what we're doing and slowly progress, you know.
So when I look at the history of this event, we got a lot of people who repeat, a lot of people who defend their title, going, Dave Scott, Mark Allen, Jan Frodeno, Patrick Lange. We've seen that over and over and over again. And I think a lot of it is like you just said, now you know what it takes to win this. What would it mean to you to win this? Because like you said, you came here a couple years ago, you have it on your ring. It's something I'm assuming you grew up watching this race, and this was it. What would it mean to you to come down to Lee Drive and be winning your 2nd title in a row?
Yeah, obviously it would mean the world, and I've had many times in my career, I've had these very clear images in my head that I've had for many, many years. Yes. And the kind of one final one, like the one that closes the book for me, is kind of me and my family on the finish line, and a photo of having the banner of us 4 kind of on that finish line. So that's definitely my motivation, yeah.
When your family has been everything, and they're the ones who believed in you when other people didn't, did it mean more to be standing at that finish line in Nice with your family? Obviously, the posse gets bigger and bigger when you become bigger. But at the end of the day, it's all about family. Yeah,
for me anyway, and I hope that's also something that I can kind of show in my racing and in my careers, kind of how strong a family can be, you know. But it equally demands work, you know. And like a lot of people will just it's funny because a lot of people kind of accept their partner and accept the kind of the positives and negatives of their partner and want to live with them, but like often their family's like, my dad's just annoying, so I don't spend time with him, you know, like, or whatever. But I do feel that like you can kind of work on that and overcome that, and actually like the strength you get from a family is huge, you know. And it's like all the like a lot of the biggest companies and like the Italian mafias and like families have shown time and time again that they are like super strong and can work great together. And equally last year in Nice, I mean, it was amazing to have my family there, but actually my dad didn't manage to get to the finish line, or they wouldn't let him in or something.
Yes.
And so we're definitely missing that little piece, you know, for it to be complete.
I think I saw him on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
When you look at where the sport is going, and you guys have been running camps forever, the fact that you become an Ironman World Champion, people are going to be reaching out who are going through issues, right? They're overweight, they're dealing with sickness, they've been injured, something like that. Do you find that type of being able to be that guy to help them through what they're going through, that fuels you in your training and racing?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's also different from 2 years ago to now, is that like if like whatever I kind of do, you know, if tomorrow I ride out with a pink cockpit, there'll probably be like 100 guys who'll buy that pink cockpit, you know. So I need to make sure I don't do too many stupid things, because certainly when I was young in my career, I have made mistakes. But equally, I feel that's also what's great about. That's one of the positives about now having like the whole social media aspect and everybody knowing what you're doing, is that not only can I show my highs, but I can also like show my lows, you know. And I think a great example of that is Arthur, who my training partner, who came 6th in Nice last year, and he's been having a really tough time recently, you know. He's about 10 days ago he decided that he wasn't going to race. Just been really struggling kind of mentally, and so he went on the other side of the island for a week, and just kind of like, he just like had a deep think about everything, and he went up to the volcano, and he had this like eureka moment where he thought, actually no, I need to make the most of this, you know, and kind of fight through this. And he called my dad and said, okay, I think I'm going to race, you know. And
no way, Arthur's racing?
Yeah, so Arthur will be racing. He hasn't had an ideal prep, but I mean, I think high level sport is and sport in general and life in general is a lot of ups and downs, you know. And but actually before him leaving to the other side of the island, I said to him, listen mate, I said, like, there's loads of people that are all on the same level as us right now, and we kind of go up, and then there'll be a little dip, you know, and every time you hit that dip, someone somewhere is going to quit, you know. And I said, don't, like, you're on this dip now, don't quit now, you know, just carry on to the next one, you know.
Exactly.
And keep doing that. And I always, like, whenever I go through a tough moment, that's what I tell myself that, okay, I'm having a low, and there's someone somewhere is going to quit now, you know, and I don't want to be that guy, you know. I just want to get to the next step and keep doing that over and over again, and that can definitely get you places. Yeah.
Love it. And Sam, when someone wins this event, when they win Ironman World title in Nice or Kona, wherever it happens to be, they become the sort of de facto leader of the sport, and people look to what they do. And I appreciate everything you do representing the sport so well.
Thanks very much.
Really,
I also genuinely appreciate everything you do for the sport. Like, I've grown up watching your interviews, so I feel privileged to be here.
How about a round of applause for our man Sam Laidlow? Yo, Pacho Man, take us out.
It's a beautiful day. Good morning, Hawaii. 'Cause it's breakfast with Bob.